Without a doubt, one of the most interesting quarterback transfers for the 2025 college football season is Jake Retzlaff. I'm sure pretty much all of you guys have heard of him by now, as he ended up becoming the starting quarterback for BYU last year, helped them have a good season, and was supposed to be the next big thing this year before he got kicked out of school. I'm not going to dive into those reasons, as you've probably all heard about it, and I'm not going to speak about it, but he ended up having to leave BYU, and now he's decided to walk on at Tulane. It was too late for the transfer portal, and there were no spots left on the Green Wave roster, so he had to take an interesting approach, and he will now hope to keep his football career rolling down in New Orleans. In today's video, we're going to talk about who Jake Retzlaff is, go through his journey, how he went from a junior college recruit with no offers coming out of high school to one of the most interesting and now controversial quarterbacks in college football. But before we get started, if you're a big fan of college football, be sure to subscribe to the channel, leave a like if you want to support today's video, and let me know what player, team, topic, or situation I can cover next. Now let's go ahead and get started and talk about Jake Retzlaff. Okay. So growing up, Jake ended up being really close with his brother, and while the two of them didn't speak their own language, they did have an extremely good connection on the football field that was nearly impossible to deny. Jake and Reggie Retzlaff were brothers who've been playing since they were a little kid, and they were the two oldest sons in the family. He said, quote, "I think it's a testament to our parents because as kids, we'd always go everywhere together. We grew up really tight and really close, and that really helped us." He ended up growing up in California, and Jake said he grew up watching Reggie Bush win the Heisman, and his first goal was to get recruited to play college football one day. His dad was actually a junior college football coach, and they watched a ton of football when he was young, and he was very familiar with BYU as a football program, but knew very little about their mission and ownership. His mom also was a former tennis coach, and the Retzlaffs were just extremely athletic. They were also some of the only Jewish athletes in their town growing up, and they always just said they were different. I don't know if it's necessarily uncommon, but you don't hear about it every day. Eventually, the two of them would arrive at Centennial High School, and his older brother Reggie saw success as both a quarterback and a receiver, as he had more than 2,400 yards and 25 touchdowns, and was also a star basketball player, and arrived at Centennial High School with big shoes to fill. They've produced a couple of big quarterbacks in its history, including guys like Adrian Martinez and Tanner McKee. Both of those guys ended up having a lot of success, and as a sophomore, Jake was buried on the bench and just didn't get a chance to get on the field. Eventually, he took over midway through his junior season though, and on the year, he ended up throwing for just over 1,000 yards. Unfortunately, due to everything going on in the world back then, this would be the end of his varsity career, and the 2020 college football season was canceled. He did not get to play his senior season, and while he pretty much had nothing backing him up statistically, he was pretty fundamentally sound, and he tried to emulate Aaron Rodgers' game. He was also a star baseball player, and that helped him. He said his playing style, especially the arm angles that come from baseball and being a shortstop, helped him on the football field a lot, and that it made him a better quarterback. Retzlaff did not have any FBS offers, as he was severely impacted by everything going on in the world, but his coach said, quote, "Jake was a kid that was caught up in that whole COVID deal, and it just didn't work out for him in terms of reps. He would have been a great player." While the stats didn't show it, he won over his high school coach, and instead of taking the normal college football route, Jake would end up going to Golden West College, which was located in Huntington Beach, California. He became the starting quarterback there and threw for 3,302 yards in just 12 starts. After that, he would transfer between community colleges and got to play alongside his brother while he was there. During his one season at Riverside Community College, Retzlaff rewrote the record books. On September 3rd of 2022, he set the single-game passing record with 529 yards in just his first start. He also had a school record 6 touchdown passes. In 13 total starts, Retzlaff had 4,500 yards, 44 touchdowns, and also completed 63% of his passes. He led them to the California Community College Championship game, and him and his brother were dominating. They averaged nearly 600 yards of offense on each and every game, and his coach said, quote, "Jake and Reggie are always talking about the game, and it gives us an advantage. They're gym rats." Yeah, Retzlaff was pretty solid as a JUCO quarterback, and ESPN actually listed him as the #1 overall junior college quarterback in the 2023 cycle. However, 24/7 Sports did not view him the same way. He pulled in a couple of scholarship offers, including Hawaii, New Mexico State, and UTEP, but BYU came in later and would extend his first and only Power 5 offer. He pounced at that opportunity and signed with the Cougars. He said, quote, "When BYU reached out to recruit me, I was excited. I knew they were big time in college football, and I knew less about the church aspect, but I've learned a lot since then, and I have a lot of respect for it." Why BYU? Well, he loved coach Aaron Roderick, and the system is extremely quarterback friendly, and he said you could really excel as a quarterback there. The coaching staff believed that Cougars fans would fall in love with Retzlaff the moment he took the field at BYU, as he had a free-flowing and confident style of football, which is something that has become a staple under Aaron Roderick. He was built like a BYU quarterback in pretty much every way, and he said, quote, "Cougar Nation, let's go win ourselves a Big 12 championship." So how did he end up doing at BYU? Well, let's take a look. So when Retzlaff arrived at BYU back in 2023, he gave the Cougars an experienced quarterback, and he'd be stuck behind a couple of good guys, including Kedon Slovis, who at one point was a big deal. Nobody really knew who Retzlaff was though, until Kedon Slovis would end up getting hurt. This came at the tail end of the 2023 season, and he would make his first career start on the road against West Virginia. He went 24 of 42 without a touchdown or an interception, and they lost 37-7. And honestly, it would not get any better, as he would then go 10 of 27 against Iowa State with 2 interceptions, but he would have 2 scores in a near loss to Oklahoma, and then in a double overtime thriller against Oklahoma State, he went 14 of 30 for 161 yards and 2 scores on the ground. Retzlaff finished with 648 yards, 3 touchdowns, 3 picks, and 3 more rushing scores. All of a sudden, he was the starter for the end of the season, and while he obviously wasn't very good, there was obviously some potential there. He ended up being able to keep his redshirt status, and while the team went 0-4, he could hopefully improve the next season. He'd have to beat out former Baylor quarterback and blue chip player in Gary Bohannon, who decided to come in from USF. That seemingly was not very difficult, as he won the starting job. He was picked as the worst starting quarterback in the Big 12 though, but he quickly proved everybody wrong. He threw 3 touchdowns against Southern Illinois, had a touchdown in a 3-point win against SMU, which became big later, 3 touchdowns against Wyoming, and then 2 touchdowns in a win over K-State. All of a sudden, BYU was 4-0. After 4 touchdowns on the road against Baylor, Retzlaff was now starting to build a serious resume, and people were talking about him as one of the better quarterbacks in the Big 12 now. This was their first 5-0 start since 2021, and they would end up peaking at number 10 in the AP poll. From there, they'd win 4 more games, as he had 2 touchdowns against Arizona, 3 against Oklahoma State, 3 against UCF, and then 1 against Utah. The Utah game was legendary, as he ended up having a game-winning drive, which helped them beat their arch rival. They unfortunately blew it in the last 3 weeks of the season, as they ended up losing at home by 4 points to Kansas, then lost on the road to Arizona State, and then would have to hope for a miracle. They would end up beating Houston, but they were left out of the Big 12 championship in favor of Arizona State and the Iowa State Cyclones. They'd end up playing in the Alamo Bowl against number 23 Colorado, and Retzlaff would have 2 picks without a touchdown, but they would win. In total, Retzlaff threw for 2,947 yards, 20 touchdowns, and 12 picks, while also rushing for 6 more. He was an all Big 12 honorable mention, was on the Davey O'Brien Great 8 quarterback list, and also, as I said, had that game-winning drive to beat their rival Utah, which put him in serious BYU lore. He started all 13 games, the Cougars went 11-2, and while they barely missed the college football playoff, he was all of a sudden talking about having huge goals for the 2025 season. They said that they wanted Retzlaff to throw for 30 touchdown passes, complete 70% of his passes, and have fewer than 10 picks. That's exactly what both Zach Wilson and Jaron Hall did while they were in Provo, and Retzlaff said, quote, "We're talking about winning big games and winning the Big 12 and going to the college football playoff and a national championship." If you'd have told me 2 years ago I'd be talking about making it to the Heisman ceremony, I don't think I would have doubted that very much. I always believed in the process and that it would bear some great results. Yeah. Then everything came crashing down this summer, as Retzlaff was thrown into a difficult situation where he was accused of some not so good stuff. Ultimately, he was suspended for violating the school's honor code, which he ended up admitting to, and would have 1 more year of college football to play. Unfortunately, he was facing a hefty suspension, and the portal was pretty much closed in every school had a quarterback, so he was faced with a tough spot. He decided to leave BYU and just enroll as a walk-on. He would not be getting a scholarship, and he ended up having to choose Tulane. Many are wondering why the heck he would go to the Green Wave, but there was a connection. Head coach John Sumrall ended up recruiting him while he was at Troy back in the day, so the two ended up hitting it off and decided to give him a chance. It was definitely a complicated situation, as while the lawsuit was dismissed, there's definitely a stigma that comes along with him here. He was facing a 7-game suspension for BYU, and now he has a chance to play right away. Obviously, he is a walk-on, and he said, quote, "I'm just worried about where my feet are. I'm worried about this next chapter, being at Tulane and winning football games." John Sumrall later said, quote, "The situation with Jake Retzlaff presented after doing our due diligence on the university side of things and with everything around him. We got the green light to move forward, and then we made sure that he was good academically, and that worked, and then the football component, he was good to go as well. Last year, Tulane ended up losing Darian Mensah, who signed a hefty NIL deal with Duke, so they brought in a couple of quarterbacks. Originally they had TJ Finley, but he ended up having a difficult offseason as well, and then they still have guys like Caden Samanza, who came in from Ball State, Brendan Sullivan, who came in from Iowa, and Donovan Leary, who came over from Illinois. This is one of the more weird and interesting quarterback rooms in all of college football, and honestly deserves a video, but I probably don't have time for it. But Retzlaff probably should be the number one option for them right now. If not, it's Samanza. Tulane went 9-5 last year, and over the last 3 seasons, the Green Wave have won 32 games. They sent Michael Pratt off to the NFL, Mensah became one of the top transfers, so if luck continues, Retzlaff will have a really good season. Obviously, he is a talented player, as he led BYU to a terrific season, and has put up a lot of yards in his career. Unfortunately, with everything that went on at BYU, there's going to be a stigma around him, but honestly, who really knows what the heck happened? And we'll just have to see what happens from here. For now, he's one of the more interesting and controversial transfer quarterbacks in college football, and I use this as an excuse to do a spotlight on him. What do you guys think, though? If you're a BYU or a Tulane fan, what do you think of Jake Retzlaff? How do you think he will do this year? And what quarterback transfer should I cover next? Also, before you go, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and check out some of the videos on the end screen, including my video about Beau Pribula. I hope to see you guys again soon, but until next time, peace.